Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. A little Zoom technical difficulty this morning. Sorry if some of you had to re-register to sign in. It looks like maybe something on the Zoom side, but we're really happy to have you here. And today we're really excited about our program as well. I'm just going to go over a few introductory slides before we get started. My name is Laura Lewis. I'm the director of the Food Systems Program, and I'm joined today by Nicole Witham, who's our statewide coordinator, and then also working on in our office is Abba Kaiser and Tia Taylor. They have also been supporting our hub work. So our meeting overview today, so just the overview itself of the Food Systems COVID-19 Hub, our COVID-19 Needs Assessment Tool, and then today we are just really thrilled to have the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, Jason Alves, who's the Program Manager for the Veteran Conservation Corps, Vet Corps Counseling and Wellness Programs, and Board President for the Washington Chapter of the Farmer Veteran Coalition. And joining him today are the VA Farm Grant participants, Michael Frazier of Viva Farms and Growing Veterans, Vicky Carter of the Spokane Conservation District and Vets on the Farm. We have a stand-in for Lisa Smith. Beth is going to be joining us today from Enterprise for Equity, and then our own Nicole Witham with WSU Extension talking about cultivating success. And then we'll also have time to share. I just, again, want to welcome all of you and encourage you to introduce yourself in the Zoom chat box. You can tell us who you are, where you're located, and what you do. And then also please use the chat box to provide links to resources, upcoming events, questions that you may have for our speakers or for any of us. Any relevant information that you want to share that you feel like would be useful for the hub and for participants on the call today. We are recording, and we will also download that chat box and make it available if anyone wants to be able to archive the resources and the conversation that happened today. And just a reminder as well about some of the work that we're doing around facing racism as a college. So last week we had Kate Smith update us on the study circles that are getting started. So just continue to look for a notification. We're going to be working internally to get some training and facilitation done around study circles, and then we're going to be opening that up to our partners and volunteers throughout the WSU system. And I wanted to also highlight a really important article that came out this week on Medium, and it was an open letter from BIPOC food and agriculture leaders. And I want to encourage all of you to read it. It's really, really just an amazing perspective, especially for someone who works for an organization that actually does do a lot of work to help fund projects in BIPOC communities, but not always in the way that we should. So I was really encouraged to read this and hope to be able to really dive deep into some of the frameworks that they suggested. And I just wanted to read this quote here. Despite this collective body of work by BIPOC-led organizations, your foundations, meaning many of our foundations, are continuing a harmful and dangerous pattern. Over the years, it has become a common practice of foundations to resource white-led organizations to do service work in BIPOC communities, or to fund a white-led organization with an established funder relationship to subgrant or to under-resourced BIPOC-led organization. BIPOC organizations are asked to partner for bottom dollar while the white-led groups get the majority of resources. This is unacceptable. And it's just a really good op-ed that was written by several leaders. And these are the 6 recommendations that they have. So they'll just be in this slideshow, which is going to be archived on YouTube if you want to come back and revisit this. And also visit the Justice Funders Just Transition for Philanthropy framework. I was able to go and look through that as well. And just some really great resources and ways to be more accountable in terms of how we leverage resources for all community members. And then just another shout out for our food security survey in Washington State. We have so many surveys going on right now, but this survey itself was created by WSU and University of Washington led research team to really understand how COVID has impacted food security and consumer behavior, both before and during COVID. If you're 18 and over, you can participate and enter to win one of 50 $50 grocery cards. And we're particularly interested in responses from Spokane and Yakima. So we've had over 1,500 responses so far in the state. Kitsap County and Clark County and King County, many of our west side counties have really got some high numbers up there, but we really also want to look at what's happening in central and eastern Washington, particularly Yakima and Spokane. So if you're part of a network in these regions of the state, please send out the survey link. And if you need additional language to send out to your networks, please let me know. We have some scripted language and graphics that you can also send out with the survey. It will be open until the end of July. So we have about just a little less than 2 weeks left. And then some information about the food systems program. We seek to work with communities throughout the state to foster viable farm businesses, optimize sustainable natural resource stewardship, and to promote scaled processing and distribution, always in the pursuit of access to healthy food for all. You can see our 7 focus areas here on the right-hand side of the screen. And our team members work across all of these different sectors of the food system. WSU Food Systems team is far-reaching across the state. We have participation in almost every county in the state. We have extension offices in all 39 counties and on the Colville Reservation. So we have 40 extension offices throughout the state, as well as all of our research and extension centers and our campuses. And just another plug for the Dri-Fi program that's going on right now throughout COVID. If you don't have access to broadband and Wi-Fi, many of our extension offices have this available now in their parking lots for free, and also have been working in collaboration with utility districts and other municipalities to make sure that communities have access to Wi-Fi. I had to use it myself a couple weeks ago and it worked out great. So I just want to put a plug in for that. And if you're interested in learning more, please let us know. And then about the hub itself. So we're into our 4th month of working on the WSU Food Systems COVID-19 Hub. We have stayed fairly centered on COVID-related topics, but we have definitely talked a lot more about social justice and other programs going on around the state as well. And so the hub itself has really evolved into more than just COVID, which we're really excited about and hope to continue that momentum. We're here to provide a space to connect regularly with our WSU folks, as well as our external partners, to collect and update our COVID-19 resources to support the Washington food system. Many of these can be found on our website, as well as our calendar of events, to deploy our needs assessment tool, the NAT, and to provide time and space to share stories and receive support from one another. So this is just an example of our calendar of events. This is updated weekly. If you have events that are coming up and you want them to be posted on this website, please let us know, forward them to us. If you see anything that looks really relevant, even if you're in social media, you can tag the food systems program. If you see a webinar coming up, we'll find it and we'll post a link to it here, as well as try to post links to anything that's been archived. And you can also find all of the recordings of our hub meetings on our YouTube channel that's linked to our webpage as well. And then just a plug again for our needs assessment tool, our NAT. This is something that we're hoping to get participation on weekly to be able to provide a dynamic view of how how the needs around COVID are continually changing across the state. And this survey can be sorted and analyzed by county, as well as by tribal community and other communities that are served. So if you also want to report specifically of the data that we have from our NAT, please let me know and I can send that to you. So I want to welcome the Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs and Jason Alves. I pulled this from your graphic that was in our website. I know that you have another one as well, but I just thought that this was such a great graphic. So I'm super excited to have you here, Jason. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and let you folks go ahead and get started.
Right on, let me pull up. Let me know if you guys can see that. Great. Well, thank you very much for having me on today with you. Discuss rural veterans outreach. This is a project funded by the Office of Rural Health out of the Federal Veterans Administration. And it's 100% in partnership with folks around the whole thing. Share some of the programs, what they're doing in support of the veterans in our rural veterans outreach. So I'm Jason Ellis, the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, manager of the programs in our counseling and wellness division. So, right on. So what I wanted to do is, I'm getting an alert that my audio is weird. Does everybody can hear me okay?
I can hear you really well now, but for that first introduction, it was very garbled. So
good. It was a terrible introduction. So we'll be
yeah.
do a redo, Jason, because I don't think I understood a single word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, my name is Jason Alves. I'm with your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. As Laura shared, I manage a couple different programs in our counseling and wellness division. One primary ones in our Veterans Option Corps. Just the context, the Veterans Option Corps was founded in 2005 with the intention of giving veterans opportunities to natural resources through ecotherapy or like ecology. I'm still breaking up. Uh-oh. I wanted to stand up.
I wonder if it seems like now you're perfect again. So is it maybe a distance from your microphone or something? I'm just.
Let me try it and see if it's a distance thing. The other thing is that we're also homeschooling everybody. So I wonder if the kids decided it's time to start doing their thing at the same time. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll try this out. I won't go through my whole introduction again. I'll just say that we're talking today about our Veterans and Rural Health Outreach program. It's funded by the Office of Rural Health out of the Federal Veterans Administration, and it's got a number of different pieces together. What I want to do today is I want to give the context as to what veterans and rural communities look like, what some of the intention is behind the grant, and actually something around the word around the project to be able to speak to their programs. That would be my Frazier, Vicky Carter, Nicole, and Beth. So just as a quick introduction, did that all come through? Or
It did. When you speak slowly, it does come through, but when you start your rapid speaking, it seems to break up a little bit. So
yeah, Jason, you might have to do the dad thing and yell from the other room, "Hey, what's going on over there?"
or turn off your video. We don't need your video. We can still see your screen. Yeah.
Let me turn off my video, see if that helps us out a little bit. And I will talk slower because I only talk fast when I'm nervous. So, we know amongst the 19% of the U.S. population is rural. That turns into about 113,000 veterans living in rural communities or in rural parts of the state. That's about 17% of our total veteran population, 600,000, 10% of the general population in the state. And we also know that of those that live in rural parts of the state, it is estimated that 22,000 veterans have a service-connected disability, so something that's related to their term of service or while they're in there. Professional, don't I? Okay, here we go. Looks like it's really important when we start talking about connecting and providing services to individuals. One of the ways that this is very is when we look at veterans employment rates. Veterans employment rates in rural communities is 5.5%, while in urban communities it's around 3.8%. One of the big things that really is employed, not seeking. So this is individuals that are unemployed, not seeking or not seeing where they can enter back into the workforce. 31.2% were not seeking rural communities. This is a population that are trying to find new ways, avenues to connect. One of the things that goes back to 22,000 estimated veterans that are living with service-connected disability. There's an opportunity for one to live in a rural community, gain access to VA healthcare or VA disability benefits, but not necessarily thrive, not necessarily connect back to their community and find a way to give back and be part of their community. So if you look at veterans as a across the state in comparison to our farmer population, we know that 82% of all farmers are 45 or older, with 37% being 65 or older, where veterans are 44% at 65 or older. It shows to highlight two focuses that we should be looking at, or that we are looking at with veterans enroll, the VA Farms Grant Outreach Project, which is that veterans are newly transitioning out, they can connect agricultural opportunities, but also the large population of producers that are veterans across the state. That we should be reaching out and working with and connecting to resources.
I'm sorry, Jane. We're still having a lot of gargly audio on this end. I think it is most likely a slow internet speed issue.
Okay, let me try. Let me mute my computer.
Oh, and Henry Wong has a good suggestion, is that you can call in with your telephone. He even put the number in the chat. So smart of you, Henry.
Yeah, good idea.
So you can still run your presentation through Zoom. You don't log out through your Zoom on your computer, just mute and use your audio through your telephone if that's possible. And we're really trying to make this work, folks, because Jason has some really enlightening information to share with everyone, and is a very, very impassioned person wanting to help in this area. So I really want everyone to be able to hear what he has to say and be able to tee up our other VA farm grant participants. So thank you for hanging in there with us. And also through our Zoom registration technical difficulties apparently this morning as well.
There, is that a little bit better?
Yes.
Much better.
Welcome back, Jason.
Yeah, so I'm on the phone.
Yeah, I almost, okay. Do you mind going back just a tad and maybe, because yeah, we missed quite a bit. Even if you want to take a deep breath and kind of start over. Thank you.
Okay.
We have
really
plenty of time.
Everybody.
No, we have plenty of time, so no worries.
Alrighty. So some of what I wanted to do was introduce some of the demographics and the reasons why we are working with, or what are some of the intentions behind working with the veterans population. The intention of this slide is to identify that about 44% of all military recruits are coming from rural communities. To put that in the context, rural communities or rural populations make up 19% of the general U.S. population. In Washington State, that turns around to be about 113,000 veterans that live in rural communities or rural parts of the state, or about 17% of the total veterans population in Washington State. Total veterans population in Washington State hovers around 600,000, which is about 10% of our general population in Washington State. And of those that live in rural communities, we know that it's estimated, or we estimate about 22,000 veterans are living with service-connected disabilities. These are things that are specifically traced back to their time in the military. That's important as we step into the next piece when we look at veterans unemployment rates, specifically in comparison to urban areas. 5.5% of rural veterans are unemployed, but even more strikingly, 31.2% of rural veterans are unemployed and not seeking employment. These are folks that are not gainfully employed and not necessarily seeing where they connect or where they can find work, where they can find their way back into the workforce. We see this as a huge mental health component or a huge opportunity for the veterans, the VA Farms project that we're discussing today. As if I am potentially service connected, I have an opportunity to gain disability compensation from the federal VA, which can keep the lights on, can keep me somewhat engaged in my community, but doesn't necessarily give me the opportunity to be fully engaged with the community and fully giving back in a way that my military service had set me up for. So are we doing okay now? Sound good?
You're great.
Excellent. We
Rock
can
and
hear
roll.
everything.
Good. Sorry again, everybody. Further on, identifying what some of our veterans population looks like, in connection specifically to the farmer population across the state, we know that in Washington state, about 82% of all farmers or producers are 45 years of age or older, while 37% being 65 years of age or older. 44% of veterans are 65 years of age or older. One of the things that makes this important is that when we step into the VA Farms Rural Project, definitely we are talking about new veterans, newly transitioned veterans, or veterans that are new or looking for a way to get into agriculture. But we also have a large population of veterans across the state that have already been successfully farming, already successfully being producers, but maybe not have tapped into VA benefits, or maybe not have tapped into what are available opportunities for them as they look at succession. So as we think about the VA Farms Project, we both want to support those that are looking to get into agriculture, as develop communications that can help tap into this group of wonderful mentors, as well as help these folks identify what are ways that succession can be supported by VA earned benefits around mental health or healthcare and or other types of compensation. So. Highlighting that, this is a map that was helped produced by the WDVA, or the VA's Office of Rural Health. And what this does is this actually takes what was the 2017 Ag Census, which was the first time ever that the Ag Census asked for military status or veteran status, compares that to the Vet Census data for Washington State. And what we're able to see here, even though this is an extremely busy map and it's probably very difficult for you guys on your end to see some of the detail here, and I'm happy to share this with Nicole or anybody else. There's a couple of other ones. But if we take a look, your dark green counties, which includes Island, Clallam, Jefferson, Kitsap, Pierce, Thurston, Stevens, Spokane, and Wahkiakum, are all over 15% of the total producer population being a veteran or military related, with Wahkiakum being one of the standouts at over 21.49% of all producers in Wahkiakum County having a military or veteran status. One of the things that makes Wahkiakum really interesting as we look at the same age demographics of the demographics, 17 years of age to 44 years of age makes up about 10% of that 21%. 45 to 64 makes up 20% of that 21.4%. And then above 65 makes up 70%. So over 70% of the veterans that are farming or producing in Wahkiakum County are above 65 years of age or older. Now that demographic changes quite a bit, with Pierce County actually the majority of that 18.6% that are veterans producing in Pierce County are within that the 44 to 17 years of age. So we have a much younger veterans population in Pierce County, but nonetheless, just kind of highlighting that in some of our areas, it's not so much how do we get veterans into agriculture, but how do we support some of the existing producer populations. So I'm going to stop real quick and make sure I'm a little bit jarbled from my sound issues as we stepped into this. Is there any questions right now with that, or is that kind of making sense with setting up some of why we're doing this, or why this grant's kind of focused on some of these things? We're good? All right.
Good.
Good deal. All right, so so it was Office of Rural Health through the federal VA was given the opportunity to fund through an RFP process the VA Farms Project. The VA Farms Project was focused on three main components, which was providing mental health care to rural veterans. Rural veterans have a very low access rate for some of the services that are provided through the VA. This is often from a number of different reasons. Provide agricultural vocational training, again, as a conduit to build some more conversations around connecting to the community, connecting to mental health resources, and overall seeking to decrease suicide rates amongst rural veterans. And then care management focused on rural veterans, identifying ways of engaging with community partners to increase access to care, as well as support veterans as they transition into these other opportunities. So our state's response to the RFP, the VA Farms Washington State pilot, well, the focus of the pilot is reaching and integrating rural veterans who are currently agricultural farmers or seeking to become agricultural farmers. And we did that through several different areas primarily, focusing on agricultural business, finance, education provided by regional business and financial education partners, on-farm support provided by 5 regionally located incubator farms, internships that support their long-term goals and access to mental health services. And this is really important to identify that while the internships are focused on agricultural or natural resource opportunities with partners across the state, the overall intent of those internships is to support the veteran in their transition of their process and increasing their likelihood that they'll access VA-related mental health or healthcare supports. Mental health counseling in highly rural communities, where we are bringing on newly hired licensed mental health providers to support primarily those incubator farms that are across the state, as well as other rural veterans that might, if we're going to increase conversations around mental health and mental health access, we also need to provide more mental health support for those folks. Business training and technical assistance, and a connection to train and supported veteran mentors. Again, looking at that existing veterans population that's already farming, and how can we make a very succinct and meaningful connection between the population that's looking to get into agriculture with the folks that have successfully done it. Doing good? All right. So it's important to note that, again, while on the ground level for the veteran that engages in the VA Farms project, it is 100%, what is the vocational opportunity? How do I put food on the table, or how do I get into agriculture? Well, the back end is looking at how do we further support some of these folks to decrease some of the suicide rates, as well as increase mental health and healthcare access. And this is done primarily through our partnerships through the VA Farms project. And so one of those big partners is Enterprise for Equity, providing the business training support. So what I'll do is I'll let Beth now introduce what Enterprise for Equity is, how they are operating, and where that kind of fits into this. Was that all way too fast? I'm sorry.
I'm going to be helping Beth out here on the presentation side of things. So Jason, would you mind the end sharing your screen? There we go. And I'm going to try to share my screen. And Beth, can you test out your audio? Everybody see this okay? Let's see. Beth, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there we
Hello?
go. There we go. We got
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I just want you all to know that I dressed up for this presentation, and you're not going to get to see me. Now I'm talking into the wind because I can't hear anything.
We're here. We're listening.
Can you hear me pretty clearly?
Yes, you sound nice, good volume and nice and clear.
Okay. So I assume the screen now is showing our introductory slide, Enterprise for Equity, with a picture of our Executive Director, Lisa Smith, in the background, yeah?
Yes, so you just feel free
Okay.
to tell me when to advance.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Jason, it was great to hear that overview. And it's been such a tremendous honor to participate in this grant and to participate with service members, really trying to develop a new mission in their lives and use the tremendous capacities and skills to do something entrepreneurial and particularly in the area of food cultivation. So really pleased to be here. I'm the training director at Enterprise for Equity. I'm also our loan officer. Enterprise for Equity is a micro enterprise development organization. It's a nonprofit, and it has been around for 20 plus years. I have been there for 13 of those years. And the mission of Enterprise for Equity is with a focus on serving people in rural areas and people with limited incomes to help them start or sustain small businesses. And you can advance the slide, please. And I thought I would share this slide with you because this is information about one of the veteran farmers that we've worked with in the past, the past year. His name is Chang Cohen, and he and his family live in Spanaway, Washington, and they own a farm called Legends Harvest. And they have a couple of plots where they're farming mushrooms and microgreens and market vegetables in a sustainable way. And they're also farming at the Veterans Farm there in Ording, behind the Soldiers Home. Tim reports that beginning a farm business has provided a way for him and his wife to create roots. They spent a lot of years moving around the country. Having this farm is a way for them to spend time together, to create a future for their children and provide for their community. Their vision is to have a 10-acre lavender farm and develop an agro-tourism business on their property, eventually helping other farmers do the same thing. They really see themselves in the future as becoming leaders in the local food economy. You can see this quote here about their experience in our trainings. Enterprise for Equity was a valuable class that taught me the fundamentals of operating a business. The program helped me understand important aspects of my business that I was not giving enough attention to. It showed me the difference between working in your business and on your business. I was able to learn these principles in the exact context in which they apply to me and create products that I could immediately apply to my business. Attending this program has no doubt helped my business's ability to grow. If you're in Pierce County, I encourage you to check out Legends Harvest at the market and buy from them. I can go to the next slide now. So as I was saying, Enterprise for Equity helps established and emerging entrepreneurs. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs in the past 2 decades. We're a licensed vocational school. We are a self-employment assistance program provider for people who are receiving unemployment but would rather develop a business than look for a job. They can go through our program and still get their benefits. We work with a division of vocational rehabilitation, so we help people with disabilities get into self-employment. WorkSource has a program to send their customers through our programs. And we're also a micro lender. So we have loans available between $1,000 and $25,000 for graduates of our business planning program. Next slide, please. By the way, the pictures in this slide presentation are all, as you probably figured out, graduates of our business program. So I just wanted to do a sound check. Are we good?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you
Okay,
sound great, Beth.
Yep, sounds great.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm in a vacuum here, so it's a little odd. Okay, who we serve. We work with individuals who live in a big old area: Wahkiakum, Grays Harbor, Clallam, Jefferson, Pacific, Thurston, Lewis, and Mason. Although we have a much broader service area for our veteran entrepreneurs. Our priority is to serve those with limited incomes in rural areas. You don't have to be low income to participate in our programs. We do have a sliding tuition scale, although we have a real priority on helping people with low to moderate incomes. We help micro enterprises, like I said before, existing and startup. We have special programs for those developing businesses in farm and food, with farmer food products or art products, although any service or product-based businesses that are legal at the federal level and not multi-level marketing or franchises can be in our programs. Next slide, please. We have a couple of special grant-based programs going on right now. Of course, the farmer veteran one that Jason introduced. So veterans and their spouses can go through our programs for free. And we have a number of grants through the Department of Commerce and their CDBG program to offer free or reduced tuition programs to people living in these counties listed here. Next slide, please. What I wanted to do was just introduce our training program to give you a sense of the rigor that people who go through our program endure to develop their businesses. So we offer a business readiness workshop, which is 2 days. We offer a business planning program for people who really want to dig in and write a business plan. And then we have topic-specific workshops like e-commerce, social media, finances, dependable strengths for people who really want to explore their career skills, and Money 101 for people who want to develop a stronger sense of financial well-being and financial skill building. Next slide, please. So this is sort of introduces you to our business training pathway, if you will. The way we like to get to know people is through an information session. These are free. Everything's virtual now. Of course, we migrated to a virtual environment back in March. So we have people joining us from multiple geographic locations. And their first entree is really an information session where we get to know them, they get to know us, and then if they're interested, they can move on into a 2-day business readiness workshop. In this 2-day business readiness workshop, we have existing or emerging entrepreneurs really dig in and look at the feasibility of their business and do the fundamentals and early stage business planning. For the folks who go through that workshop, they have to do some pretty robust fact-finding field research to gain a depth and breadth of understanding in their industry so that they can move into step 3, which is outlined here, our business planning program. And this is roughly a 10-week program, about 50 hours. That's 50 hours with an additional 3 hours of one-on-one coaching. All right, they really roll up their sleeves and do the research and the writing of a comprehensive strategic business plan. They do that with a cohort, and so there's a peer support system built in, and many of our entrepreneurs maintain that peer support network years after they exit our program. We really believe in community development, and we have a strong focus on developing not just business plans, but entrepreneurs with the skill set and the fortitude to pull off those businesses. And being in community is one of the ways that they are resourced. Next slide, please. This is just more detailed information about what we do in our business readiness workshop. I won't go through that. Next slide. Business planning program. The one thing I want to point out here is we have a very strong emphasis on the triple bottom line. So from the very first contact they have with us, we are introducing concepts of, how is your business going to be profitable? How is it going to be good for the planet? And how is it going to be good for the people working in it and that you serve? And we weave these questions around triple bottom line all the way through their business plan. So by the end, they have a pretty clear sense of, how are they sourcing in a sustainable way? How are they dealing with waste in a sustainable way? What kind of environment in the business are they creating for positivity and equity, for people who work for them? And then profitability, and that may seem obvious, but I tell you, we get a lot of folks coming to us who just want to do good and don't care if they make a lot of money. And we have to work pretty hard with them to understand that, being profitable is what's going to make them and their business sustainable long term. Next slide, please. We go deep into market planning, financial planning, and operations planning. Key areas of business planning. Next slide, please. And then we celebrate every year. We have a graduation micro-business showcase. And this is just one group from one graduation. You can see the lovely faces of some of our graduates. And many of these folks, as I look at them, are farmers, makers, food producers, fiber sellers, like they, have sheep and create fiber, restaurateurs, bakers, and then next slide. As I mentioned, we are a micro lender. So we have a micro. Sash Sunday, who owns Oli Kraut. She's a graduate of our program and a borrower. USDA funds our microloan program, and these are some of the eligible uses. More information I can provide if anybody's interested at a later point, but I want to emphasize that these microloans are available to graduates of our program only. Next slide. And here's some folks who have, some other folks who've received microloans from us. I will highlight Tom and Jessica Ellis, who own Freedom Acres Dog Boarding. They're in the sort of Elma area. And Jessica is a veteran. And they went through our program about 10 years ago and then took out a couple of loans to open Freedom Acres. Next slide. Just a few more borrowers, and that's really a wrap. So thanks for letting me present our program and give you just a snapshot of what we do and how we do it and who we work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you for moving and grooving with all of our technical difficulties there.
My pleasure.
All righty. Can you guys see the slide again?
Yep, looks good.
Yep, cool. All right, thank you very much, Beth. As we look at the VA Farms grant and kind of how it's set up, there's really two primary partners that are able to provide overview and training across the state, as well as a series of incubator or localized farmer opportunities. I don't know, we'll go ahead and jump into the next slide, and then we'll give Nicole and the Farmer Veterans Coalition conversation that can go after the incubator farms. So if we want to go on to the next slide, if, Michael, if you want to kind of share how you're part of the VA Farms grant and kind of what's going on up there. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And tell me, Viva was the presenter last week on the hub call, and so I don't know that I want to spend a lot of time on Viva, but I do have a little PowerPoint for GV that I could go through that gives everybody a flavor of what we do and why we're connected to the project. I don't know, Nicole or Laura, could you maybe post the link or share the Viva presentation so people can get to it if they want to, and I'll just share just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so Viva Farms, short and sweet, founded 2009, nonprofit, and we're a farm business training organization. We have kind of three components of our training program. which are accredited practicum in sustainable agriculture, which is kind of the prerequisite to get into an incubator. So we have an incubator as well. Actually, a couple of incubators. We also have an ag park for folks that have been through the incubator program and want to kind of launch onto larger scale for a longer period of time. And then we have, workshops. So, we basically provide the essentials for folks that want to get into farming, which are training, and we do bilingual organic sustainable farming training, along with the other essentials, providing land, infrastructure, equipment, markets, and capital. And we've had several, veterans work their way through the program and are now farming offsite or on-site their farm businesses. And we currently have several farmers in the program, practicum and incubator as well. As part of the VA program specifically, we've provided basically scholarships for veterans to get into the practicum and sustainable agriculture program. And we're working with Jason there at BCC and WSU as well and Growing Veterans to provide, veteran cultural competency training, suicide prevention training, and other things, and providing kind of that outreach piece and space for a lot of this training to reach veterans. Yeah, so that's the Viva part. Let me share my screen with the GV part here real quick. All right, are people able to see this?
We see
Yep.
it.
All right, so Growing Veterans, founded in 2012, and it was basically the genesis of a 3-time Afghanistan war veteran, Purple Heart recipient, whose unit suffered some of the greatest casualties in Afghanistan, and then also on the return home, the greatest number of suicides within the unit. And Chris Brown, was going to school up in Whatcom County, and kind of experiencing what veterans experience when they get out of the military. And we'll speak a little bit about that as we go through the presentation. And also Chris Wolf, who was a mental health counselor who was working in permaculture. And the two of them came together and really, realized that, supporting veterans in an agricultural environment could provide some serious mental health benefits, as well as help folks find new purpose and new belonging outside of their military service. So, yeah, just something to note that, and again, I guess maybe just a preface to this comment and to perhaps other comments throughout this, conversation is, there's definitely like a general experience of military service, and then there's some pretty significant outliers. So I would just say, and generally to this next comment, most of the folks that join the military are folks that care about community and want to make the world a better place, and are not afraid of hard work and commitment. And so that's a large reason why a lot of folks join the service. And what happens is many individuals become a unit, a team, with common purpose, with common culture, with a lot of structure, and it can become, for a lot of people, stronger than family, or what is family. And sometimes, what can happen in this experience is a lot of trauma, and trauma is not unique to military veterans. Folks in any walk of life experience trauma, and there are some unique experiences related to veteran service, and trauma can be one of them, and it's can be physical trauma and emotional trauma. And then folks, like transitioning out of service, there's a new reality. And I think this can represent it here, from again, a common purpose to a common team, to family, a belonging, to kind of something new, and can feel pretty separate. again, that last slide, I'm going to go back one, can represent some of the trauma that folks experience, like the physical trauma. And then there's also emotional trauma that folks can experience. And then again, to the transition, it can be, again, leaving a lot of, normalcy and, all those things I mentioned before, and moving into something that's not nearly as clear. And folks in this transition actually can experience, some of what are considered the most significant transitions anyone can experience in life. They, change work experience, so they lose their job. Oftentimes they are in a move. And there's a lot of ambiguity in this process for a lot of folks. And it can feel isolating, and isolation can lead to death, and separation and suicide. And, the average, and, the latest average is somewhere between, 20 and 22 suicides a day for folks that are veterans, which is significantly above, pretty much any other demographic. So this is what we do. This is GV. We empower veterans to cultivate purpose and belonging by growing food, community, and each other. And we do that in several ways, which I'll touch on. And a new path. We can help people. Hey, there's light. And there's healing light as well. So here's our vision. We create a culture of honor, truth, and understanding, where we connect and strengthen the roots of our humanity. Again, back to that service, community, oneness on a level. Here's some of the cornerstones of our work. So we definitely work in sustainable agriculture. And we farm, and we've had different locations around the state and worked with different partners. Some of the ones on this call, of course, no surprise, where we help veterans grow things and grow each other, side by side. And a note here, we are not a veteran club. We're a veteran service organization, and a big part of veterans reintegrating back in civilian life is to be working shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with civilians. And to that point, about half of our participants that come out to the farm or go through one of our other cornerstones here, our peer support training, are civilians. And it's really important that we're working together with community, because that's one of the things we're trying to create. To speak just to a little bit about peer support, it's an experiential training program where folks learn how to be in service to others. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And again, other cornerstones, purpose and belonging, through these two programs. So here is, keep growing. It's something that we continue to live and breathe and share with folks that come out to the farm. It's always a process to keep growing. And so that's what kind of we're in the business of doing. This is a picture of our Linden farm. We also have a location currently on Whidbey Island at the Greenbank farm. And this is where people come out and get what we call dirt therapy. They work together, again, in the fields growing food for the community. And instead of, the veterans experience and of destroying things, bring things to life. Picture some of our veterans. And I could go in depth, but I'm going to move pretty quickly through some of these. But the smiling faces, I think, tells the story to a degree. These two ladies are civilians, actually. And we get a lot of people out to the farm, different community groups. So we provide a place not only for veterans and the kind of volunteers generally, but for groups to come out into the fields and experience the work that we do, and grow food together. And we do have some, and historically have had some different sales markets for the produce that we produce. The great majority of the produce actually makes it into the emergency food system, which is perfect. Some more of our folks. Jackson the dog. We have quite a few dogs out on the farm. And some more of the volunteers, at the heart of what we do. So again, our produce, we grow a lot of different items. We actually have some value-added products as well, which you can find in different places: hot sauce, beer, tea. Yeah, in the beer piece, we partner with Aslan, and there's a fresh hop forum every every fall with a limited run on Charlie Foxtrot beer, which uses our organic hops. So if you come to the party and see if you can't find that beer, it's distributed around the region as well. We do bees and honey, and that's another product you can buy from us is honey. We do some eggs, but that's for folks on the farm. And again, markets. You know, we've done markets in different places. You know, in years past, and not currently. We've actually done it at VA hospitals, in different VA locations where folks that are coming through the doors to receive services can also receive produce on their way home. Yeah, some of our programs, both the dirt therapy on-farm program and our peer support training, have both been studied by the VA. Here are some of the metrics that came out of those studies, and this is specific to the on-farm dirt therapy. 87% increased purpose and belonging, 91% satisfaction and skill development, etc. And this was a study that was completed in 2016. But even within the participants that were touched in this limited study, it wasn't everybody that we've ever worked with, but 4 folks, the most important metric here, 4 folks decided not to kill themselves. Here's some of the produce piece and where that product has gone. Quite a bit of produce for relatively small scale farming. And again, a lot of volunteer help. Here's just a small quote from one of our folks. It feels good to be putting something into the ground that is going to explode into life instead of destruction. And here's some of our volunteer hours. You know, and we need to update this slide. And of course, you know, unsurprisingly, this year, a large part of the dirt therapy thing on farm experience has been affected by COVID, et cetera. But we've done some stuff online to try and continue to create that meeting space for veterans to come and check in and just, yeah, be community. A little bit about our peer support training. So this is one of our classes. So we offer an accredited peer support training program. It's accredited by the Mental Health Counselors of Washington. So folks that are in mental health can actually get 20.5 CEUs towards their accreditation. And it historically has been a 3-day training where people come together. We've moved it to a virtual training actually, and just completed our first virtual training where we had 12 participants go through the program. And it translated pretty well. We have another one coming up in August. So there'll be a virtual training for folks from around the country. And I'll share some more about the metrics of this as we go forward. Here's kind of the core of peer support. And, you know, again, anybody that experienced trauma can probably use some support. And here's kind of the core of what we train as far as how to be in peer support of another. It's simple stuff, but put in practice in an intentional way can be very powerful for folks. And it's about being present and listening. It's about being empathetic and validating folks' experience. And it's about being curious about the individual and asking good questions. You know, and that's the very short version. But if you want the full version, you can come to the class in August or somewhere out there in the future. Here's some graduates, and we've had quite a few graduates go through the program. It's a pretty powerful experience for folks. And, you know, it's really pointed towards folks that want to be in support for others. But kind of just the nature of the class itself, people get a lot out of it personally as well, going through it, just experiencing that peer support and using their own experience to learn how to do that for others. Here's some of the metrics. And yeah, it's a new, like I said, it's a relatively newer program. But yeah, and again, COVID experience. So we had several on-site training scheduled for this year that we had to cancel. So that virtual training hopefully will help us pick it up through the end of the year. Here's one quote from one of our grads. Yeah, I'm doing this because I need a purpose in this world. I need a reason to care again and to feel that my life has meaning, not only to me, but to others. I need to know that I have something of value to give to the world. I need to see that goodness abounds, that people still care, and I need to try to be part of that. Yeah, so again, that's the very, very short story. Yeah, we offer light, you know, on a level, and encourage people to keep growing, all of us. And there's, yeah, just a recap. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much. That was really inspiring and really just thrilled to have all of you on the call today. I know we're going to hear, I think, next from either Nicole or Vicki. And Jason, do you want to set that up, or do you introduce who's next?
Yeah, I won't share my screen. I'll go ahead and give Vicki the opportunity to share her screen and dive into where she's working. You know, unfortunately, my garbledness at the beginning and kind of getting nervous with that a lot, I didn't set up some of what Michael was able to speak to, which is, we have partners through this grant that are been working, doing wonderful work with veterans for a while. And part of the intent and part of our argument through the RFP back to the federal VA was, instead of starting something new, let's figure out a way to partner with folks that are already doing great work. And definitely Michael, Growing Veterans and Viva Farms, one of those, and then Vicki is another one of the farms that is already has been doing wonderful work with veterans and part of this program. So Vicki, if you want to take it off, I won't try to introduce you. I'll let you introduce you, but definitely.
Great.
Hey, Vicki, if you don't mind, real quick, and I apologize, just something I didn't mention, and it kind of, Jason, thank you for helping remind me. Through that, well, through both programs, the Dirt Therapy program and also the peer support program, we've had people that have bumped into us in that way, and now do that work. So several examples of folks that have been part of the Dirt Therapy that are now farmers or farm managers on even commercial farms. And folks that have actually experienced our peer support training that now work in mental health. So yeah, that's a little bit of a pipeline to some of the other, to the Viva Farms, to other programs, to other businesses. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. Okay. Well, I also just want to extend, the thanks to our last presenter. Growing Veterans was an inspiration for me too. As I looked at bringing a program into Eastern Washington, I made a trip over to Linden, Washington with Pat Muntz and Wendy Knopp, and looked at their, what they had. They were relatively new. I believe this was in might have been 2014 that we went over. So still relatively new in their growth. And, but I could tell that there was something very special there. And one of the stories that I keep close to my heart in everything that I've done with Vets on the Farm was there were a number of veterans that day working out in the field in Linden. And I asked them if they would turn around for a picture. And these gentlemen were from all different, there was 5 of them, and they were from different branches of the service. And I don't even know if they knew each other or knew each other well, because this was such a new program still. But when I asked for their picture, they turned around and they all locked arms together and gave each other a smile. And in that very moment, I saw something, I call it the unspoken brotherhood of them as veterans. And it was so powerful. And I knew that this was going to be a great place for healing and community again. And it really did stick with me for all these years that I've spent in this program now. So with that, I'll get back to my presentation, but thank you to Growing Veterans for everything you're doing for our veteran community and for our agricultural community as well. So I am Vicky Carter, Director of the Spokane Conservation District, and agriculture and veterans are 2 of my favorite groups of people. I've worked with the Conservation District for almost 30 years now. And I also am from a very, very large military family. My son, my only son, will be making his 4th deployment in 2 months. It'll be another, 9-month-long deployment. So I'm very aware of the effects of our veterans as they transition or come back. And so that's very profound for me. It was also one of the reasons that sent me on the path that I did for a program like Vets on the Farm. And just to give everybody a little bit of a background, Vets on the Farm was, the genesis of it was really the fall of 2013 when a few of us were invited to our community college where they were showing this film called Ground Operations, Battlefields to Farm Fields. And some of you might be familiar with it. I hope that if you're not, you'll take time to watch it. It's a really important documentary. But the lady that's featured right below in the Vets on the Farm hat and sweatshirt is Delaney Ellis, and she is the director and producer of that film. She and I have become great friends through this, and it was her work that was so profound to me and wanting to do something in Eastern Washington. One of the people that I reached out to, of course, was Jason Alves, and he was just such an incredible partner and person that wanted to help and make sure that we were able to be successful in this. And certainly this VA Farms grant has helped us along that way, as well as, you know, all of the VC interns that we've had as well. Other partners with Vets on the Farm were down in the lower right-hand corner. You can see Randy Entman. He's the tall gentleman on the left. He's the local farmer here that his father is a veteran, but he also, he and his family donated the 3-acre farm that we use as our incubator farm. And then the gentleman in the middle is Michael O'Gorman. And Michael O'Gorman, of course, it was the executive director and really I call the father of this movement of veterans in ag for Farmer Veteran Coalition nationwide. Michael has just recently retired and will be moving in a little bit different direction for FVC, but still extremely instrumental in the work that we do with our veteran community. And then we have other partners as well with the Farmer Veteran Coalition of Washington and of course Upper Columbia RC&D, who acts as our fiscal sponsor. One of the questions that I think is important is why is this movement so important? Why is it that agriculture and sustainable agriculture and local food systems really becoming the forefront of conversation? And it's because we all eat, and the American farmer, we know this statistic now, the average age is 60 years old. We as a country, we've taken on, feeding the world. But more importantly, we're really now recognizing the necessity for nutrient-dense food. And there's no better way to do that than having people that really and truly care about that food source and to have it be as local as possible. And again, so how that ties into our veteran community is through food security. And I say our food security is directly tied and equally as important as our national security. And our post 9/11 veterans, not all, we're not exclusive to post 9/11, but certainly we have a number of them leaving their military careers that are looking for that next mission and seem to be interested in this. Along with that, so many of our veterans bring these what we call transferable skills and being able to apply them into agriculture and other natural resources. So they're equipped with a skill set that closely aligns with agriculture. Over the last 10 years, we've recognized that USDA has also really responded to this in the number of grants that they've put out that have allowed us to support veterans in agriculture, and we've certainly been recipient to some of that funding, as well as partnering with WSU and the Washington DVA on a number of things as well. But just some of the things that we've recognized, I have listed here, the precision farming technology, drone technology, urban agriculture, certainly, production ag and livestock, farm logistics and management, and then we also have many of our veterans that are interested in fire recovery and restoration work. So it's filling a great need, and certainly one that we're going to see continue into the future. So much like our friends at Growing Veterans, we are considered to be an educational component. We like to provide what we call our roadmap, which helps our veterans transition into their farming or ranching career if that is their choice. And we do it, and it's based on 4 core principles: education, the internships, employment opportunities, and then just information and outreach. And the education component is one that we aligned early on with WSU as with the Cultivating Success program. And we use that as our cornerstone piece. And we ask and help each one of our veterans that comes into our program move through that program. And if you're not familiar with Cultivating Success, it's a 12-week program that's designed to introduce the participant to everything. That it's from A to Z on a small enterprise, particularly farming and ranching in this case. I like to call it the big hopper. They throw their idea in the top, and then through the 12 weeks, they get to sift it down. And in the end, they come out with something that might, look pretty darn close to a business plan or something that they can move forward with, especially if there's a need for additional financing, perhaps through something like Enterprise for Equity or some other small business-based financing. And then the internships, those have come to us in a number of different ways. Initially, we worked with DVA on our VCC interns, and we've had those now since, I believe, 2015. We've at least had one, if not two, each year through the VCC program, administered by the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs. And then we most recently, of course, are working on this VA grant, and we have 5 interns that we support through that program. And really what we're doing with that, that's almost like what we call a mini internship, in that we introduce them to the season open through seed propagation and some of our GAP, our good agricultural practice audit procedures, right into the actual planting and field work that we do. Certainly we move into the harvest and all of everything that goes on with the cleaning, the washing, and the marketing components of our program. And then we also finish with our, we will be finishing with our season close. So that has been really successful, and we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to provide these veterans with that opportunity, and especially kind of in this mini format. It's a season long. It really helps give them the idea if they want to continue or not. It's a great chance for them to just try it out, and if it fits and it feels right for them, they can move into something a little bit more in depth. And if not, it gives them the opportunity to say, hey, that really wasn't for me. And then there's not this huge capital investment for them on their part. So we, along with our VA internship, we also had set up to do 5 workshops throughout this season. We're modifying a couple of those again because of COVID, but we were able to hold our seed propagation in the spring right before COVID. So that was fantastic, very well attended. And then we've got another one that we'll be doing in August on composting. It'll be a compost system that people can actually make and take. We've got one of our veterans who actually is a bit of an expert in this area, and he's actually going to be leading and teaching that. And then in the past, and one that we had to cancel, but we're hoping to bring back, is our tractor trailer safety training. And that, again, it was designed and put on by one of our veterans in our program. And it was a fantastic training, and one that was asked to be brought back, where we literally taught, we had 3 different size tractors on site, as well as trucks and trailers for people that have never backed a trailer into a barn or into a small area. It was fantastic, and trust me, I did it, and I feel much more confident now in my ability to move a trailer around. And then we also, one of the other core principles that we provide is in other employment opportunities, and we realize that not everybody wants to or will own a farm, but there's certainly other employment opportunities on farm, on a ranch, or within some other part of conservation. We had one in just last week. We've had many, but just one example. There's a veteran rancher in the Spokane area that called, and they need a ranch hand, and they're providing housing for the family. They have employment benefits, including health care. And I happen to have one of my vets that's in this new VA internship that was perfect for the job. So it's kind of I call it our vets.com, where it's almost like a matchmaking, and it's worked out fantastic in the past, and something that is becoming more and more known. I get more and more calls every week from people that are specifically looking for veterans to fill a need before they go out to the general population. And then the last component is just our information and outreach. And again, some of that is our workshops and things like that, but it's also that community building. And that's part of where the marketing comes in. We give our vets, you know, the opportunity to engage with the public and other volunteers that come up to the farm. So in exchanging that information, and then we ask them from time to time to lead groups, whether it's, you know, we had the GAP certification that just came about, and that was all veteran led, and the seed propagation, same thing. So that opportunity for them to share that new information that they've acquired or learned. This is just really quick. We do have a 3-acre learning farm. And again, we went over and looked at Growing Veterans as well as Viva farms. Ours is just a 3-acre farm, and it is supervised by one of our veteran farm managers. He's worked with us now for 2 years. We also have a greenhouse manager there, also veteran. And then we have at any given time 6 to 8 veterans on the farm in some sort of capacity of an internship where they're learning a certain piece of that. At our farm, we're learning crop production, greenhouse management, some orchard management, of course, everybody's love of fencing. And then we're just introducing some small livestock operations. So stay tuned for more. They're really excited about that. So stay more to come on that. We also are teaching, because we're a conservation district, practices, low flow irrigation, hoop houses, you know, those types of conservation practices that we support. So again, we believe that, you know, if we teach our veterans to feed themselves and their families, they'll be able to be a bigger part of a community. And connecting those dots one at a time, we'll be able to feed the world healthy, life-sustaining food. And certainly that's something that I think we are all interested in. Our program, we like to say, is really about transition, connection, and cultivation. So we help those veterans transition from their military career, and then connect within, you know, first with veterans and then also with the community, and then cultivate their own future. And for many of those, we hope, and our goal is to have many of those in the future of agriculture and conservation. To date, we've put somewhere running close to 300 veterans through our Vets on the Farm program here in Spokane. And we also have some outlying areas. We do have little spots in several other counties, and we do certainly reach out to other states as well, Idaho and Montana. We've been extremely involved in helping them get organizations started. So, but we're here to be a resource for them as well, and, you know, as a partner, and helping them, just like Growing Veterans has helped us, helping them just spread the word and spread the good deed, and helping our veterans find their new mission and something that they would find to be really worthwhile. And again, as it's been said, 22 suicide veterans a day still. It's just way too many. When we can give them opportunities like this to be a part of the community again, and to do something that that is so valuable and that we desperately need, there's reason for them to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and certainly invite anybody that's in the Spokane area to visit us.
Thank you, Vicki. That was really wonderful. And again, just building on all of the work that you're doing throughout this session today. It's been, yeah, really amazing to hear about all of this work. If people have questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat box and we can read them out, or you can also ask questions directly. I think we're going to hear from one more speaker. We have Nicole Witham as well, who's going to talk a little bit about the work that WSU Food Systems Program is doing to support this work.
So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Vicki. So you all have been hearing from me through my role as the coordinator or facilitator of this food systems hub. But another role that I play for our food systems program is as a statewide coordinator and kind of a helper and convener of a lot of different small farms, food systems, and ag coordinators throughout the state who have been working pretty hard over a long period of time, some have been, to offer our Cultivating Success courses. And so this opportunity with the VA farm grant, Jason reached out to us to see if we would be willing to offer our whole farm planning courses to help as one of the educational components within this VA farm grant. And again, building off of his idea of utilizing things that are already out there instead of making up new ones. And so Cultivating Success, I'm going to give everyone just a really quick background of what it is, and then what course we're offering and where this coming fall to help support this grant and support new and beginning farmers and veterans in the state. So I have to put myself into presenter mode here really quick and remember what I'm doing. Not pull Beth's presentation up again. So Cultivating Success is a program that is over 20 years old now. It was originally started collaboratively through, oopsie. It was originally started collaboratively through teams at both University of Washington and University of Idaho, as well as Rural Roots, which is a nonprofit in the Moscow, Idaho area.
You said it's Washington State University, not University of Washington. I'm just gonna.
Did I say University of Washington? Oops. That's okay. Sarah Collier's on the line. I'm sure she got a kick out of that one. But yes, Washington State University, or what is now our food systems program. It was actually our small farms program that interacted in this. And then as we've grown into our food systems program, we are now kind of the conveners or holders of this work. And so Cultivating Success is actually more of a curricula program, but it builds in these very special characteristics. And this is what, and I'm sorry, my thing is like on, must be on slideshow mode because it's going on its own. I'm really sorry. So it involves these special characteristics. We try to build this into all of our Cultivating Success courses, farm mentorship, so including other farmers as teachers, presenters. It's community-based. It's taught by extension educators within the counties and communities. We try to include experiential learning on farm, and then the whole course itself revolves around the whole farm, whole systems format, and is focused on small farms. I'm going to stop this because I think it's on a rampage. It's just going through PowerPoint mode. So the course that we are being contracted to offer is the whole farm planning course, which will be rolling out this fall. This course has in the past also been known as the Sustainable Small Farming and Ranching, or Small Acreage course. And just over the past few years, we've kind of transitioned into calling it whole farm planning, as that's really what the whole course is all founded in. So the course itself is a 10 to 13 week course, really depending on who is teaching it and how it is kind of been laid out. But these are the basic modules that you see happening for that course, the different things. And as, oh, see, it's doing it again. See, I'm having all kinds of technical gremlins. But as even Vicky was saying earlier, the course really is like a hopper. We try to say that it isn't a how to farm, but it basically provides you a whole array of tools for decision making. It really gives you a little snippet of each of the elements you should be really focused on when considering whether to go into farming or not, whether you're considering changing up your farming format or how you're marketing your products, So even if you're an existing farmer and you're just needing a way to rethink how it is, what you're doing, it gives you the tools and the framework to do that. So participants or students within go through those different modules. They're building their whole farm plan. They're getting all kinds of different decision-making tools so that they can always be aware of their own personal assets, their financial assets, and what it is that they're really going to be successful at. And there is another course that we encourage after that, which is called Agricultural Entrepreneurship, or it's our other kind of ag business planning course, much more focused on some of the legalities and regulation and financial aspects of maintaining and building a sustainable farm and food business. And so basically, we were contracted with them. We are going to be rolling out these courses. I'm going to look to the side because I have a big list on my wall over here. We're right now working through all of the different counties that are going to be able to offer this. We're leveraging the funds that we received to actually parlay more opportunities throughout the state, and also because we're going online. So we have created a collective cohort model that about 8 different counties are going to be participating in. So they're going to be hosting their county courses like they would in their areas, but they will also be interacting with a statewide cohort of everyone who has signed up for the course. We are also going to be offsetting or offering scholarships for all of our veteran participants. And we're going to be doing some specific outreach for veterans to let them know that this is a course that could be good for them to seek out farming as their next career or next mission in life. And yeah, so I think that's it. And I want to ask Jason if I'm missing anything. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an understanding of that. There is going to be outreach materials and a launching of all these courses over just the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that, all the different counties. And I will list them really quickly. So far we have San Juan County, Skagit, Snohomish, Grays Harbor, Mason, Clark, Okanagan, the Colville Reservation, Spokane, and then we have some outliers, Thurston County that's offering the course. They're not going to be participating in the collective cohort, but they will be offering the same course, but they're doing it, they work with South Puget Sound Community College to offer the course. So they're just taking it through a different route that doesn't line up with our schedule. But all of those counties will be offering it. And at this point, because everything will be going online, we highly encourage folks, no matter where they are in the state, to find a course near them and to sign up. And I will hand it back to Jason and or Laura.
Thanks, Nicole. I'd love to just ask all of our speakers in particular how your programs have had to respond to COVID beyond just not being able to meet in person. If you have, specific, if you've had to look at new programming or how to just sort of make that shift.
This is Michael at GV. Just real quick, we've started a coffee check-in. So coffee and guns, no, just coffee. Coffee check-in Friday morning. Veterans come to, and some days it's very, very unstructured, and some days we have some presenters and things, and it's really about just checking in and connecting, and pretty powerful for folks, including this morning. So we do that. We've done some more video taping of some of the workshops that we do. So we've done some ag workshops and kind of how-to videos, relatively short, and have posted those for folks to take a peek at. And then, as I mentioned, we moved our peer support training 3-day program to a virtual setting and have that underway.
In Spokane, we had to, of course, pull back a lot of our actual face-to-face meetings that we had scheduled. But last month we went ahead and held one up at the farm where we knew that we could safely distance. and just wanted to have an opportunity for people to regroup. We just felt like it had been so long, because our last meeting was in March. We just felt like it had been so long that people needed to have face-to-face, even if we couldn't have it in a, our normal traditional setting. So we held a farm meeting and allowed people to experience that dirt therapy again. All of our veteran interns and the folks that work at the farm, they've still been able to do most of what they would have done anyway, because they were considered essential as an agricultural employer. So we were able to keep them pretty much as they were. But the rest of our veterans that come to our meetings and just want to have that camaraderie and share in some of the information that we present, it had been a long time. So for us, holding that was something we felt was, we felt comfortable doing it. I didn't feel like we were at risk at all being outside. We had plenty of space, and those that wanted to go get in the dirt and help harvest that day were allowed to. So it was great. And I know people really appreciated it too. And it just kind of brought things back together. I hope we can do it again next month.
This is Linda McLean from the Colville Reservation. And really, for food sovereignty, food security, we hold our hands-on gardening workshops in April or May of every year. And we have 4 communities or districts on our reservation. So we try to host a garden workshop in every district. Well, since COVID happened, that didn't occur. But people still wanted garden information, and they're still needing to know how to produce food. So we've developed we're kind of late getting going, but it's a program to plant a greens garden, and it's a milpa seed blanket. We're working with the Organic Seed Alliance to develop the seed mix and get it in the hands of residents so that they can plant either a 4x8 garden bed or a container of greens and utilize to feed their families. So that's coming up here soon, end of July, 1st of August. I've got to put the seed packets together. I got the seed and the humate fertilizer. Now I've got to create the packets. So we're working on that.
That is such a great update, Linda.
Thanks. We're still trying to get food production in the hands of residents. So hopefully greens will encourage more people to eat a different variety of salads.
And this idea came up from a past presentation that we had. And I would love, in the coming weeks, as this moves forward, to hear the story of how all that came together as well. So really interesting to hear how people have had to pivot their programs based on COVID. I know that Jason still had another slide or two that he wanted to share to wrap up our conversations about the VA programs.
Yep, I'll go pretty quick, but just to share with everybody, Michael with Viva and growing veterans, as well as Vicki with Beth on the Farm, are part of a larger collective of incubator or learning farms across the state, with Catley Outpost in Okanagan, Vets on the Farm, of course, Vets Cafe just south of Olympia, getting closer to Centralia, Chehalis, and then Grove Victory Farm in Olympia. And then actually not on this map for some reason is also the Veterans Farm at the Ording Soldiers Home, just down the hill from Puyallup. And that's actually the Veterans Incubator Learning Farm that we administer through the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. Each one of those then is connected through the statewide support that you heard today from Enterprise for Equity, as well as the Cultivating Success, and then the very own state chapter of the Farmer Veteran Coalition, which provides some of that connection, opportunity to collaborate, as well as some very specific initiatives that will support farmer veterans. One of those being we're currently recruiting for or offering the opportunity to provide professional development funds through that organization for any farmer veteran or veteran that's seeking to get into agriculture. So if you got anybody out there that is a farmer veteran or seeking to become a farmer veteran, there are funds available through Farmer Veterans Coalition of Washington State, and also a fellowship fund, which is both administered through the national organization, provides grants to farmer veterans for on-farm needs, as well as a statewide one that's being supported by and fundraised for by Red Bridge Farms, where we're able to provide $1,000 grants to 21 veterans for their needs and those types of things. So finally, just wanted to real quick kind of share with everybody where we're at with VA Farms to date. Like I said, part of the goal with the program was to invest in things that were already happening and provide support to the VA in reaching out to rural veterans in connection. So to date, we've had about 93 veterans that have been directly enrolled into the program. Those are folks that have an ongoing relationship with either the incubator farm, Enterprise for Equity, and then here soon with Cultivating Success. So folks that have enrolled directly into the program. Overall reach, this is folks that have been trained, touched, referred, supported, kind of in their connection. 240 veterans have been reached, trained, or supported through the VA Farms program, and then 527 community members through the program. One of the big impacts there with the 527, we had 125 attendees to a rural-focused suicide prevention gatekeeper training called Veterans Learn. And this is huge because this is 100% what are the basic tools that a community member can have to help support a veteran that may be contemplating suicide or thinking about taking their life. Referrals or connections made, we've had 10 mental health referrals. These are direct referrals to a mental health provider paid for by the VA Farms program. So veterans that have found themselves in a mental health office having asked for those types of services. 3 healthcare referrals directly to the federal VA. Folks that hadn't previously used VA healthcare services now find themselves within the VA healthcare system. 53 educational referrals. This includes the educational programs that you've heard about today that are part of this program, as well as other ag and natural resource programs, primarily through our community colleges, supported by our relationship with the Agricultural and Natural Resource Center of Excellence at the Walla Walla Community College. 1 referral for legal assistance, and then 1 for referral for housing assistance. We've had 4 new mental health providers that weren't existing, well, they were existing, I guess there were people before, but anyways, they weren't necessarily on contract providing direct services to veterans in these rural communities, are now on license and providing mental health support, which is seeing 43 clients, 5 couples, with a total of 51 hours of mental health services that hadn't existed prior to. And just to kind of wrap things up, we know that work and connection, community involvement is associated with a decreased intensity of depression. Veterans with mental health conditions often experience those occupational impairments or connections to thinking back to that high number of unemployed not sinking and where that value is to find meaningful connection to community and meaningful opportunity to give back. I think you heard it both from Vicki and from Michael. We are talking about a population that at one point in their life, often very young in their life, made the decision that they wanted to give back and be part of the solution, find a mission to support their community, and now is no different. And we know that agriculture provides advantages to veterans by providing employment where the veteran lives. Again, thinking that we have a high portion of veterans that come out of rural communities. A lot of them then return back to those rural communities, and there's value in providing employment and these connection opportunities where they're at, not expecting them to travel to the I-5 corridor or into a city center to find employment or meaningful connection, but actually provide new and unique opportunities where they're at. So those were my last few slides. I'll stop sharing. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. And I apologize for the garbling and getting a little bit nervous at the beginning, but I hope that this all kind of comes through. And like I said in the chat box, I'm 100% open to share anything and everything that you've seen in the slide today, and or provide more of the vet census data or the ag census data that was in that map I shared.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. And thank you to all of our speakers today. And we did record this as well, so people can go and look at the YouTube recording once it's posted. It should be up there in the next day or so. So you can also look at that. I'd like to just open it up if there's any additional questions, anything else that people want to share before we close for the day.
I just want to jump in and share something with the group really quick. We just earlier this week offered a veteran cultural competency training for all of our facilitators and instructors that will be offering these whole farm planning courses in the fall. And I just wanted to let everyone know that it was, although it was online via Zoom and not in person as originally intended, that it was a really powerful training. And some of the information that we received in today's presentation is just a little snippet. And I think that it's really timely as people's minds are being more opened to what they can do to support different marginalized groups around them. And I think veterans often don't come to mind when we think that way. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Jason let me know that he offers those trainings for free as part of his role at the VA. So he may get really upset with me for putting that out there for folks. But if you have an organization or a group that is interested, we all found it highly valuable and are already trying to figure out how we could potentially offer it for a broader extension or WSU audience.
Hey, just a quick note on that, and perhaps Jason, you could share more. But as part of this VA farm grant, those partners, VA, VCC, WSU, Viva, GV are going to be hosting some of those classes, and it'll be a virtual setting, before September. So we can keep you posted on that, and folks can access that information. And it's part of this grant, but it's also part of an agribility grant and part of a kind of an ag suicide prevention initiative at WSU extension budget as well. I love the howling in the background. Ow. Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I just wanted to put a plug in for next week's hub meeting. It's July 24th, and remind you all to take the needs assessment survey this week, send it out to your networks. And I wanted to also just queue up that next week we're going to be hearing from the WSDA's agricultural economist, Madison Moore, and the WCA Regional Markets Program about the Washington Food and Farm Economic Survey results. I don't know if I got the title of that survey correct, but it was the survey that went out a couple months ago. It was open for a few weeks, looking at the impact of COVID on food and farm businesses. And they have done some preliminary analysis of that data, and we'll be presenting that back to the group next week. So we're really excited to see the results of that survey. If you can recall, they had, I think, over 800 participants. And so should have some really useful information coming out of that. Even though it was over a very short period of time, we're hoping that it can really help inform all of us as resource providers in terms of what it looked like to continue to support food and farm businesses as we move forward. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share before we sign off for the week? Upcoming events, things that you just want the group to hear about?
Just a kind of last little editorial on the veterans thing, and I apologize for holding people on just a little bit longer, but I mentioned a little bit ago that we have a high percentage of veterans that are actually active producers. That comes from a pretty long history of connecting those that are separating out of the military to agriculture. And in the Pacific Northwest, we have a pretty long history going back to World War I and World War II, where veterans were some of the first recipients of the newly irrigated Bureau of Reclamation lands. So while this initiative is new, the way that we're going about it is new. Veterans in agriculture is a long-standing tradition here, and it is important on how we produce and feed our community. So just last little piece there. Sorry.
Thank you, Jason.
I can't help myself either. Sorry. Just one more thing that comes to mind as an important. I think again, I think there's a lot of folks that a small percentage of the U.S. population is chooses to join the military or is connected to that military service, and so folks just don't know. But the military is one of the most diverse workplaces in the world. 31% are identified as minorities, and so and for me personally, I'm a Marine Corps vet. It is the first place I worked side by side with folks that I had never had any sort of experience with, and it's been a powerful experience in my life, and helped me have the lens I have today. So
great, thank you so much. Yeah, I know that was something that Nicole talked about after doing the training as well, is just looking at the just tremendous amount of diversity within our veteran community, and knowing that it's just such an incredible asset. And like you said, Michael, the ability to share those experiences with people from communities that you may not have necessarily come in contact with throughout other aspects of your life. So it sounded like it was a really powerful training. So I'm excited to see it offered and hopefully be able to participate in it myself. Okay, well, if we don't have anyone else that wants to share, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And again, thank you all so much for participating today. We look forward to seeing you next week. And please continue to send us your resources, updates, calendar events. We'll get those posted on the hub. And I hope everyone has a safe and happy weekend and a good week. I'll see you all soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.